established in, I think it was Fort Worth, Texas, and he got to know him real close. He believes he shot him, the president. He's stunned about it, but he believes it because he knew Marina talked to him about how his life here, his whole life really was very much one of the shooters that we have in our own country. He was a loner. His life growing up was not that great. There's a whole series of frustrations in his life when he came back. He wasn't accepted in Russia. They didn't even want him in Russia. He comes back with his wife. He couldn't get a job. He wasn't that well educated. He dropped out of school. And the Marines, he wasn't that great.
He just didn't fit in anywhere.
He didn't fit. And the jobs that he got back here, let me read it to you. The boring jobs back in the United States, it made him impossible for him to show his wife, Marina, that he was a man to be reckoned with, a man who, was successful. Now, here's my point. You know what I think? This is just my opinion because I read a couple books. One of the books I read was by Joshua Thompson, I think it was, 6 Seconds in Dallas. It came out in 1967. I remember that because that was the year I got married. And the book, when it came out, was quickly taken off the shelves because it proposed a conspiracy theory that, because of the Cuban affair, the Bay of Pigs,
yes,
that the Cubans were part of his assassination, the conspiracy. Him and his brother Robert were, assaulting the crime scene, the mob scene, the organized crime. So there were a lot of people, a lot of organizations, and a lot of factors and segments in our society who were really conspired. They would want him dead.
Well,
you know what I think?
Go
Let
ahead.
me just finish my thought, if I may. I know I'm.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think Oswald shot him, but I don't think he got off 3 rounds in 8 seconds in Dallas, or 6 seconds in Dallas. Did you ever fire a bolt-action rifle?
I've seen a bolt-action rifle, and
to
me it seems very difficult.
Very difficult to get off
with such accuracy.
Yeah, well, he was an expert shooter, by the way. I think there was someone else, and I believe it was. I think there were two shooters. I don't think there was anything between him and whoever else, whether it was somebody from Cuba, the FBI, Johnson, and all the other. I think there was another group of shooters that were also shooting at the same time. That's my.
Well, I don't know if you watched Meet the Press yesterday, but Doris Kearns Goodwin was on, one of my favorite people. And she was talking, because they said that, in talking about 50 years ago, talking about the assassination, and she said her husband, back in 1968, spoke to Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah.
And Bobby Kennedy said that if Oswald didn't act alone, first of all, he didn't think Oswald acted alone.
Yeah.
He said, and if anybody had anything to do with it, he was pretty positive that it was the mafia.
Yeah.
He said the mafia was behind it. When you stop to think that when Oswald was being led through the tunnel to the police car and Jack Ruby, happened to, he shot him, because as a bar owner, as a strip club owner, he knew the police. He came in. He was also mob connected.
Yeah. And
there are just too many loose ends.
That's right.
And it'd be very easy to make the connection.
Yeah. But, Mark, I guess my overall thought on the whole thing is, Oswald, and by the way, the writer who knew him, the guy that wrote this article in the New York Times, Gregory, again, I'm looking at it, him and his father knew Oswald and Marina very well. They helped her. His father was Paul Gregory. His father was Russian, by the way, so helped Marina in dealing with
the language, right?
But the real thrust of my thought is: can we trust a government that may have covered up this thing? The Warren Commission said, okay, it's just a lone shooter. I don't know. I guess a lot of people still think it was more than one shooter and that this was either incompetently handled or that it was a cover-up that Could our government really be lying to us?
Well, Don, going along with what you're saying now, you have to ask yourself, why is it that the so-called truth behind the assassination is sealed up with instructions not to be opened up for 100 years? In other words, in 2063, not 20, in 2063, my mistake, that generation would have already been dead. So the truth would then come out. I mean, there has to be something. There are too many loose ends.
Yeah, right.
And as far as trusting my government to tell the truth, no.
Well, we know where that is, exactly.
I mean, look at Pat Tillman. Pat Tillman was killed by friendly fire, and it was covered up for months.
Exactly.
In Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
It took his mother acting alone, to try to get to the truth. And I'm sure this happened in Vietnam, and I'm sure that it happened in other conflicts, in other wars. So as far as the government telling me the truth, yeah, you could take that to the bank.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you on that. I agree with you totally. Anyway, those are my thoughts of the evening, and one reason I wanted to bring it up, this whole gun control issue and the government possible cover-up. And anyway, damn it, Mark, I'm going to live 100 years more because I want to be around to find out what the truth is.
I don't blame you. There's always hope. Medicine is always making headway. They're extending the longevity of people. Unfortunately, they're not talking about the quality of the life that they're extending.
Yeah, exactly.
I got a question. Whose decision was it to seal those files for 100 years?
Who do you think?
The president?
Well, I don't know if it was the government or the family, because, look, Bobby Kennedy was talking like even he didn't know. When he was talking to Doris Kearns Goodwin's husband 50 years ago or so, he said he wouldn't put it past, organized crime, the mafia.
Exactly.
Okay, so that means even he is speculating.
Yeah.
Somebody must know the truth.
Yeah. Here's the finishing touch. Even Senator Curry, Secretary of State Curry, even believes that something's being concealed, that it couldn't have been one shooter.
I know. And
did you? Unbelievable.
And did you notice how right away spokespeople for the government had to take a step back?
Yeah.
And say, he's speaking for himself, and he made sure to preface this by saying this is his opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And damn it, why can't he have an opinion of his own?
Right, exactly.
And why can't he be allowed to express it?
Hey guys, listen. I'm sure I took up too much of your time.
No, Don,
I did want to address this because it's very much on my mind. It's 50 years later, and I remember so vividly as though it happened last week.
Yes, it's so true.
Yeah.
So true.
Next time, at some point, we'll talk about what's happening with you and your station and being defrocked and all that. I guess is that.
Listen, Donald, it's always a pleasure speaking with you.
It feels like you're just part of the show.
Thank you. All right, guys, talk again.
Okay, be well.
You be well.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that was Donald. As we said, one of our regular callers, and it's always interesting when we have a conversation with Donald, when he'll call up. Listen, all you have to do is mention Kennedy and everybody's ears perk up. Felix?
Yes, true.
It's the family, the name, it just has that effect on the American landscape. And when you talk about Camelot and you talk about royalty, the name Kennedy has to come up.
Another thing is maybe one day, Don is a member of UU. That's the Unitarian church. They call it UU. And he's got some good some beliefs that are quite interesting. Maybe we'll discuss that with him one day, too.
That'd be great. That would be great. And anyone else? Remember, folks, 516-665-1860.
You can actually Skype us also at Trucking to Heaven or send us an email, Mark at truckingtoheaven.com. That's with a C.
And Felix at truckingtoheaven.com.
We will read your email. As you can see, we'll talk to you live. And that's all we can say about that. We just like to hear from people.
It
makes the show move. It brings other ideas. Listen, we're here just to provoke your thoughts. And we're here to provoke your thoughts, and we're here to remind you that we have the Coffee Party, which is a movement we started, a sort of a parody to the Tea Party, just to get people to go out and vote and make a change.
And even though voting is over, that doesn't mean that you don't go out and try to make a difference in your own community.
That's true. There's a lot of things happening, where you could be an influence. I'd like to see people go out and, help your neighbors.
You don't have to be like Lily Corcoran, who sponsors one activity after another, and when she finishes one, she's got another one to go to. She's great. She took it by the reins and did it basically almost all herself, laying out a lot of money from her own pocket. We're not telling you to do that, but certainly you can go out and volunteer. If you have the time, of course. If you're still working, well, that's very important for you and your family. But if you are retired and have the time, certainly I'm sure that hospitals could use your help. Veterans Administration, veterans groups could use your help. And you don't have to be a professional. Okay, there's still Meals on Wheels that need to have food delivered to homebody people. There are a lot of things that you could do to make change.
And what I'd like to say is, you could call your politicians. If you're not happy with what they're doing, call them. Let them know that you're not gonna, you're not happy. That when elections are coming up, you're going to seek an alternate candidate. Tell them that you represent us and do as we want you to do.
Felix, I would like to close if it's okay with you. We only have a few minutes, but we started talking about stop and frisk shortly before Donald called. And I want to bring up two instances which are embarrassing for me, and it should be for almost anybody. Two African Americans in New York here were shopping at Barney's. One was buying a belt, which was very expensive. Another lady was a nursing student purchasing a designer pocketbook for $2,300. I mean, I would never buy a pocketbook for $2,300.
I don't have $2,300.
I don't even have $2,300. Exactly.
To buy a pocketbook.
But these two people were profiled, it seems, in the store, and they were stopped and they had to go through questioning and went down to the police station, etc. Now Barney's is trying to push it off on the police department. Can't really get a straight story. But the bottom line is that is not what stop and frisk is supposed to be. Okay? The idea is to keep guns off the streets, keep community crime down to a minimum. I'm a firm believer in community policing. I already told you my son is a policeman. He pounds a beat for 8 hours a day, 8 hours a night actually, since his tour begins at 8 in the evening and it runs through 4 in the morning. Not exactly a desirable time, but he's on his feet patrolling. He introduces himself to the store owners if the stores are still open. Okay? That's the only way that you are going to get crime down in a community. If they know that they can trust you, and if you're honest, okay, then they will help you when it comes to apprehending a perpetrator or maybe stopping a crime before it happens. Felix?
Absolutely. There's a reason why we have stop and frisk is because we have crime. If there was no crime, there would be no need for stop and frisk.
And as my daughter said to me before I came down here, she said, if you have nothing to hide, what's the difference? Okay? Who cares that there are more African Americans or Latinos and Latinas that are being stopped and searched and questioned? Okay? If I was in a neighborhood and I looked suspicious, I would expect the police to stop me. Okay?
That's true. But still, I'm sure if you're an African American, Latino, that's not committing a crime, and you might get offended by it.